NXT from June the 24th, 2025. Pretty good show. Got some stuff going. And we got one of the matches for our Evolution set already. Later on, we may talk about why DJ Tatanka quit NXT. Nobody really cares, but I may get into it anyway. Just to fill time. Just because it's something to discuss. But let's start with the show. We got some Saturday night main event style openings here, where all four competitors for the Women's Championship number one contenders match had a short promo. I note specifically Jordynne Grace because she focused on her desperation. She didn't come to NXT to not be a champion. She's failed to win that title 2 times now, so this is extremely important to her. Now, the match was the main event. So it was Izzy Dame versus Jordynne Grace versus Lash Legend versus Jada Parker. And the winner will face JC Jane at Evolution. Jordynne Grace won the match. The match was very solid. You know, I'm just sick and tired of fatal 4-ways and triple threats. We've seen so many of those lately that they really don't hold any sort of special position. Like, I remember being a kid, it was rare to see a fatal 4-way or a triple threat match. You would get excited. You'd be like, oh my God, 4 guys are about to fight. You know, it was rare that you would see that. Now it's every week is fatal 4-ways. Every week is a triple threat match. So it kind of took away the luster. But I also was a little perturbed by the fact that they didn't really play into the desperation angle with Jordynne Grace. I would have liked for her to have like a cheaper win, maybe even tease and turning heel due to the desperation. But it was fine. Overall, all the girls did their thing. Jada Parker took the pin. I guess she's the most pinnable person in the match, I suppose. She pretty much took everybody's finisher. She took Izzy Dame's version of Tessa Blanchard's Magnum. She ended up taking whatever Lash Legend calls her finisher. And then she ends up taking like a torture rack powerbomb from Jordynne Grace, which actually ended the match. Right move. Jordynne Grace was the right person to win. She is the one to carry this division from this point forward. JC Jane is clearly just a transitional champion. Jordynne Grace and Blake Monroe, they're going to have their time to run the division. I, of course, am certainly saying Lola Vice and Jada Parker having the glass ceiling put on them in favor of the new women who come in is a little unfair. At the same time, though, they still need a lot more seasoning. So I understand why they wouldn't get the push right now. Now, when it comes to Izzy Dame, I would have said she might have been the most pinnable person in the match, but they're actually telling a story with Izzy Dame. Izzy Dame has befriended Tatum Paxley. She bought Tatum Paxley a doll and actually invited Tatum Paxley to be in her corner for the Fatal 4-Way match. And Sol Ruca and Zarya tried to talk Tatum Paxley out of it, but she would not have anything of it. And then Izzy Dame introduced Tatum Paxley to the culling. So Tatum Paxley's whole gimmick is she has no friends. And now not only is Tatum being wooed and seduced by Izzy Dame, but she's also being introduced to Izzy Dame's family. So she's being ingratiated with not just one friend, but multiple friends. Tatum Paxley had no hand in the match, however. She got kidnapped by Zarya and Sol Ruca, so that's definitely going to come up later. So we got Tatum Paxley and Izzy Dame. They're going to be in this feud with Zarya and Sol Ruca, which means essentially that Izzy Dame is now going to be chasing the Women's North American title. That makes sense. I'm cool with that. Lash Legend is kind of like the odd girl out. Without a tag team partner, with the chicken head theme song, with no other titles to wrestle for, they got to put her in something personal. Maybe with Jada Parker, because Jada's got nothing going on either outside of eating pins. Let's move on. TNA World Championship. Trick Williams defeated Josh Briggs. Trick Williams bust out an Eddie Gordo from Tekken move in the middle of this match. I guess it had to do something to make it interesting. Josh Briggs couldn't do anything. Anyway, Trick Williams won the match. After the match, Trick Williams basically was trying to call himself the greatest TNA champion of all time. He ended up getting interrupted by Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry attacked Trick Williams. Trick Williams fled, of course. Later on, we find out that Joe Hendry will be challenging Trick Williams for the TNA World Title at the TNA pay-per-view, which I forget. I think it's called against. That's not Against All Odds. What's the next one? Slammiversary? I forget what it's called. In any event, Wesley met Trick Williams backstage. Trick Williams is very frustrated. He got pinned by Inamura. He got beat up by Joe Hendry. He's tired of this. He's sick of this madness. But Wesley, who is growing his hair out, he's got a pick in his hair now. Hopefully he's going to grow his locks back. He said he's going to fight Joe Hendry next week. Ava gave him the match. Trick Williams promised to owe Wesley a favor if him and TNT take out Joe Hendry next week. Of course, Wesley is down to do that. So that ought to be interesting. Of course, I expect Joe Hendry to win. Joe Hendry said that he is now going to show up at NXT whenever he feels like it, which is like the second time he said that. He's already said that he can show up whenever he wants, that he has an open invitation. But okie dokie, this is fine. Tavion Heights showed up. He actually wanted to talk to Charlie Dempsey. He claimed that Charlie Dempsey injured him on purpose to keep him from defeating Javon Evans. Dempsey claimed that it was just a training injury and it was a mistake. It was all an accident, brother. Dempsey volunteered to take Tavion Heights' spot versus Javon Evans and said that Tavion Heights is not ready to lead the NQCC anyway. Tavion Heights then whipped out a mask, claiming that he's medically cleared as long as he wears this mask, and he's going to fight Javon Evans, win the match, and free himself from No Quarter Catch Crew. They have the match, which was the second match on the show. Javon Evans wins the match. It was okay. Not as good as I think Tavion Heights can do. They seem to be telling a story here about this injury limiting him, but that mask is an absolute loser. He looks like he's wearing a muzzle. It looks like a fetish mask. I don't like it. In any event, Javon Evans wins the match with a spinning splash, tornado splash, springboard joint. Not bad. Out of nowhere, here comes Jasper Troy, who attacked Javon Evans after the match and beat him up. So not only does Tavion Heights have to stay in NQCC, but then they beat up Javon Evans. Jeez Louise. Now, that wasn't the last time we saw Jasper Troy. He showed up again later during Obafemi's segment. Obafemi got into the ring, says that he has been making stars footnotes in his legacy. Now he sits upon the throne, but he gets restless when there's no competition. He wants the competition. He wants to fight. Then he called out for anybody to come and fight him. And what he got is the very Porky Pig-ish Asian fellow, this Yoshiki Inamura fellow, got in the ring and essentially challenged Obafemi to a match, saying that he loves NXT and he wants to give back to the fans and all this stuff. It's stupid. It's a real stupid. Of all people, Inamura, of all people. Look, I get they're trying to do something different in NXT, but Inamura is not it. All the guys you have access to, TNA guys, AAA guys, Evolve guys from anywhere, Inamura is not it. So hopefully Jasper Troy, who came out and destroyed Inamura, is back on the barbecue. I would rather watch Jasper Troy try again than watch Inamura try once. Anyway, Jasper Troy beat up Inamura. He faced off with Obafemi again. Next week, they're going to do the Inamura versus Jasper Troy one-on-one, a number one contenders match. The winner will face Obafemi at the Great American Bash. You cannot tell me that they're going to run this show opposite AEW All In and they're going to put fucking Yoshiki Inamura in the main event of that show, or at least in the co-main event spot. That is an absolute abortion. It's a bad idea. It's top 10 bad ideas. This is the spot where a guy like a Tavion Heights should be. This is a spot where, hey, you got Ricky Starks on your roster. That's where he should be. Or even, well, not Ethan Page, but, you know, somebody else. Yoshiki Inamura, I don't know, man. It's not a smart move. So hopefully he loses. Speaking of Ricky Starks, however, Ricky Starks defeated Ashanti D. Adonis on this show. Ricky Starks feels like he's kind of spinning his wheels. After the match, he is attacked by Ethan Page again. Because it's the feud that never ends. It just goes on, my friends. And later, Ava swears that she's done with this. She's sick of these people feuding, which, to be quite honest, also includes me. I'm also sick of them feuding. But Ethan Page says Ricky Stark's been pushing his buttons, and the only way this ends is on his terms. So I'm guessing Ava is going to have to create some kind of cage match, some kind of dog collar strap match or something in order to finish this feud off. It needed to be done 2 weeks ago. It needs to be done immediately. It seems real goofy that they brought in Ricky Starks with all this hoopla and then stuffed him firmly in the mid-card to feud with Ethan Page. I don't get that decision. That's bad decision making. I get it. You don't want to displace Trick Williams. You don't want to displace Obafemi. But sometimes sacrifices need to be made. Sometimes sacrifices need to be made. All right, so Noam Dar is injured again. This guy just can't catch a break. He came back for 2 weeks, now he's out again. Look, be very well prepared for Noam Dar to get the best of his future. It's been 10 years, man. Noam Dar is one of the last guys from the Cruiserweight Classic. He's one of the last guys from 205 Live. I think we've gotten all the juice that we're going to get from this plum. Is ready to call it a day. But since he's injured, his Heritage Cup is now up for grabs. Luca Crucifino, to prove his loyalty to Tony D'Angelo, he actually got Tony D'Angelo the vacant spot. So it was Tony D'Angelo versus Stax Lorenzo for the Heritage Cup. And Tony D'Angelo was happy about this, and Stax was also happy. Stax then called Luca his consigliere. So the Heritage Cup championship match on the show, Tony D'Angelo versus Stax Lorenzo. Tony D'Angelo won the first fall fairly quickly. I think it was in the second round. Stax brought some goons outside the ring with him as his seconds. They ended up attacking Tony D'Angelo with a chop block outside the ring. Tony D'Angelo then spent the rest of the match selling his leg. He ended up getting rolled up in the later round. He got rolled up and pinned by Stax. And then it becomes a really big deal later on with Luca Crucifino. He comes out ringside and he mistakenly snatches the pail, a metal bucket that Stax's goons have been using all night. And they snatched it and he hit Tony D'Angelo in the back of the head with it. This was followed by Stax's finisher, and thus Stax wins and wins the cup. This was framed as another accidental attack by Luca Crucifino that cost Tony D'Angelo a match. So Tony D'Angelo punched him out after the match and said that he didn't trust him. And so Stax has the championship. Tony D'Angelo is completely split from Luca Crucifino. And everything is going smoothly. Tony D'Angelo looking very feckless out there. But he looked strong, at least early. He was kicking Stax's ass, and then they told the story about how the tide was turned. And the bigger story, of course, is that Stax is forming his own family. He's got his own little goons out there, and Tony D'Angelo was out there by himself, fighting all alone. So that was the visual story that you were supposed to be following, which is a good one, and it was a sensible story. And I guess it had a sensible finish, even though I wasn't a big fan of it, because the referee saw the metal bucket still in the ring and counted anyway. Why? I guess people forgot the rules all of a sudden. Dark State showed up, said that they've been scheming. Who cares? They haven't done anything since they showed up. This angle is flat as a plate of piss. Thea Hale was very frustrated, said that she tapped out Jada Parker last week, which is true, and she was being her very panicky, anxious self. And then Lainey Reed, the young lady from Evolve, showed up and said that Thea Hale has not changed at all, that Thea Hale isn't as grown up and adult as she claims to be. So she plans to take Thea Hale's spot here in NXT. I wish that Thea Hale was doing something of note, but it's not happening for some odd reason. Very, very odd reason. And of course, the final segment here, Fatal Influence beat up Blake Monroe and said they don't like newcomers, and she wasn't going to come into NXT and just jump the line straight to the beginning. So that's why they put her through a table so she could start from the bottom. I like that. That was a good one. So overall, NXT was very solid. Obviously, the men's division remains extremely weak. They're making bad decisions in terms of putting guys like Inamura in this spot. not following up on anything when it comes to Miles Bourne. The only thing he did is, got into an argument with Lexis King. So, there's some missed opportunities here that I'm not really a big fan of. And I get it, they might not have this Inamura guy for long, and I get it that he might be over with some of these fans, but ultimately, this is not a guy I want to see on network television in the United States of America. Once again, you have access to guys in TNA, guys in AAA, you have guys that you could poach from anywhere. If you feel like the roster is weak, you can always call up some guys from Evolve if you have to. You got NXT... not NXT, I'm sorry, WWE ID talent. You got a bunch of people you could pull from. If you need to plug some holes in NXT, you don't need to use this fucking Inamura fellow. This is very frustrating for me, obviously. That and the placement of Ricky Starks has been very frustrating to me. But there's not much you can do about it. At least Obafemi is very good. At least this Jasper Troy. I wish they would change his first name and it wasn't Jasper, that they give him something cool like Monster Troy, Murder Troy, Bank Robber Troy or something like that to make him sound cool. Machine Gun Troy, Babyface Troy, anything other than Jasper. It makes him sound like he's the maid, the butler, the chauffeur of somebody on the show. So that's pretty much it for NXT. Now, Carl Fredericks, aka Eddie Thorpe, aka DJ Tatanka, let it rip that he actually quit NXT on Twitter. He said he wanted to do quote unquote something meaningful with his life. Nobody knows what that means, but he apparently is the they-them girlfriend, boyfriend, or whatever of Dakota Kai, and she got fired, so apparently he quit too. But he said his reasoning was that WWE did not allow him to do some DJ shows during WrestleMania weekend, and they allowed other people to do outside projects, but they did not allow him to do outside projects, and he was very frustrated with this, and that's why he quit. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It's not like WWE was harmed by him not wanting to be there. He of course says, well, all of his fans were like, he was trained by the New Japan Dojo, as if that automatically means that you're good. There's a bunch of bums in Japan. White bums, Indian bums, black bums. There's all sorts of bums in Japan. What the fuck does that mean? He got trained by the New Japan Dojo. They didn't train him to have a personality. They trained him to do moves, and that's all he really knew how to do. He wasn't over in front of a WWE audience, no matter how hard NXT was pushing him. Thank God they didn't push him that damn hard. They only pushed him near the end of his run. But he got pissy and left, and he's on social media now yelling about Donald Trump. Who really cares? That's really why so many people are up his ass and trying to give him all this grace, is because he's on Twitter yelling about Trump supporters and yelling about Donald Trump. It doesn't matter. Ultimately, he's a shitty pro wrestler. He's going to go back to New Japan, or he's going to get shipped over to Ring of Honor, where he's going to work matches that nobody will watch. And this would probably be, Eddie Thorpe would probably be the highest he ever achieves in his career. Not saying that, the guy's completely, totally useless, but he's pretty damn close to useless. Now, NXT's probably better off with him gone, because it opened up opportunities for people who are actually good, who have actual personality. So that's great. Now, NXT, good show, still making bad decisions, but hopefully these decisions don't tank the show too much. Overall, though, it was pretty good. Let me know what you guys think. I'll talk to you folks later. Peace out.
No one does it better.